You know, yesterday I went to the National Palace Museum, and I think there is, particularly in Chinese culture, an era of people who respected art for art's sake. Looking at the paintings, in Korean we'd call them sansuhwa, mountain and river paintings, or the poems that would be inscribed describing a painting, and things like this. And the innate value in just appreciating art and nature, I think, is a very big part of that society. And I still see it in Asian societies, but I worry that we get too caught up, all of us, Americans and Chinese and Taiwanese alike, in this idea of now art has to be used for something. Whereas in the old days, if we would listen to the poetry, or if we would experience the art of the classic painters, we would realize they aren't creating it to be used for anything other than to be appreciated. I think that as a writer, you need to be expressing what's in here. And a difference between us and the ancient writers is they may have been able to live in the mountains and just appreciate the art. We live in this world, and this world is interconnected in unparalleled ways. I'm able to go on my little tablet and tweet pictures of where I'm going in Taiwan, and people are responding from Ireland and things like this. We are part of this world, and so what is in here needs to end up on the page. It shouldn't be ignored, in my opinion. I have more. I think we can be inspired by people's appreciation for art, while at the same time creating something different. And the different today involves a lot of these questions, I feel. For me as a writer, I don't think that writing greatness comes from picking a side and writing too much on it. I think that writing greatness comes from taking all sides and throwing them together and trying to approach them realistically. And that doesn't mean you can't have a personal philosophy as a writer, even one you want to espouse. That's just fine. In fact, there are great writings out there that are didactic, trying to teach. But I think the great writing comes where you are including the opposing arguments in realistic ways, so that those things can interlock, so they can be as messy in your stories as they are in the real world, because I think we arrive at truth through struggle. We arrive at truth through different perspectives, arguing together. And without that, I don't think we can find it. I think one of my mandates as a writer is to make sure that peoples whose opinions are different from mine are still being represented in my fiction in a way so that when those people read the books, they say, yes, that is what I think. This person is me, or at least is my philosophy. And it doesn't matter if everyone else is different. If there's one person who is saying their philosophy and doing it right, I think you have achieved something as a writer. I would actually say that books are the best way, or one of the best ways, to both build imagination and empathy. In fact, I often talk to people about the power of fantasy novels. People ask me, why fantasy novels? Well, I will say that fantasy novels do a couple of things. Number one, fantasy novels will present to you characters who live very different lives and in very different worlds from yourself. And I think that this naturally builds empathy. If you see through the eyes of someone very different from yourself and see their struggles and lives, and they see how similar that they are to you, then that is going to build empathy. Something as simple as Lord of the Rings and seeing dwarves and elves who are so bizarre, but they can get along, I think it builds empathy. Imagination, I say that fantasy novels are like exercises for your imagination. And why is this important? Well, all great things that have happened in our world, I feel happened because somebody imagined a better world. We change as a society because people say, no, something better can happen. New technological advancements, new social advancements, getting along as races. These are things that didn't exist before someone was imaginative enough to say, no, the world can be a better place. And I think imagination is innately important. Fantasy novels challenge that. You read a book that has all these weird races, all these different places, and it forces you to work your brain in a new way that I hope and feel will make you, in the long run, more imaginative.